So the last little bit we have to do here is to correct an issue that came up with scale and just add some attributes for controlling the visibility of some of these control curves so we can hide them and get them out of the way if we don't need them. So what you'll see now with the rig is that although it seems to be working great, we can do whatever we want with it. The problem is scaling doesn't quite work predictably the way we would want it to. You know, if we want to scale this ball larger or smaller, we're going to run into problems. And that's because once we start scaling this, we're actually changing the original distance, but the rig doesn't know that. So what we're going to do is we're going to normalize the scale. And what that's going to do is trick the rig into thinking that even though when we scale this up to 1.881, the rig's going to always think that we're at a value of 1 and it's going to work correctly. So to set that up, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back into our hypershade. We're going to grab that and graph that multiply divide node that we use to determine the width, and we'll graph it out, and we'll just make some room over here. And in order to normalize the scale, what we want to do is take our placement control, and we want to take the distance and we want to divide that by the scale of the placement control. So what I'll do is I'll make a duplicate of this multiply divide node. I'm going to drag over, bring up the connection editor, and what I'll do is I'll take the distance of our distance shape and I'll plug that into input 1, x, y, and z of our new multiply divide. Then I'll grab the placement, I'll reload the left side, and I'm just going to take the scale y, since this will always be scaled uniformly anyway, and plug that into the input 2, x, y, and z. And again, this multiply divide is also going to be set to divide. Now the only thing we have to do is just replace the connections into our multiply divide that controls the width of the lattice or the clusters, and just overwrite those connections. So we can just take the output x to the input 2x, y, input 2y, output z, input 2z. Now our network is complete, and if I just move this to the side, what we should see is that we can scale this, but we can't, and that is because our geogroup still has a scale constraint. So we actually want to get rid of that, because now our scale is being controlled by something else. So now you'll see that we can scale. We should be able to use our squash and stretch controls. We can rotate the ball inside that squash and stretch. We can use our rotate deformer to rotate the deformation wherever we want. We can animate this, we can reposition it, and it all seems to work. Now, we'll still run into a problem if we try to scale from the move control. And the move control shouldn't really be scaled anyway, so what we'll do is we'll just lock that out so the animator can't scale it and cause problems. So the last little bit that we'll do is we'll add, on the placement node, we'll just add some visibility controls. We're going to add one for our squash and stretch deformers, and then we'll add one for the rolling control. and then we'll add one for our main controls as well. So I'll grab the placement. I'm going to go to modify, add attribute. I'm going to call our first set of controls deform control viz. The names will automatically get spaces by just using capitals where space should be. And I'm going to set it from keyable to displayable. Since they're visibility controls, I don't really need to key them. I'd rather just have them unkeyable. We can just turn them on and off as needed and not have to worry about any stray animation curves bogging down the scene. We're going to make it a Boolean so that it's just an on-off switch. And we'll say add. Great. And we'll add also a rotate control viz. Again, displayable, add, and do a main control viz. Displayable, and then add. So now what we can do is go to our general editor's connection editor, and I'll just load in first the deform control, and we'll say our deform control viz can be connected to visibility. Then we want our rotate control viz to visibility. It's locked, so it won't let us. So what we'll do is we'll just unlock selected. Then we'll make the connection, and then we can lock it up again. And then lastly, we'll just grab the move control, reload. Again, it's locked, so we'll unlock it momentarily. We'll make the connection, then we'll lock it up again. So now, when everything's off, we just have a placement where we can move the stuff around. When we're ready to start animating, we can turn on our controls one by one, turn them off as needed, and we're ready to go. We're ready to animate this. The last thing we might want to do is just take these three groups, group them to something, and call it root. So now we have a nice clean hierarchy that if anything needs to be done to this rig, it's really easy for someone else to pick up and go. And there is our squash and stretch ball rig.